In this video, we're going to have a little discussion about how you connect your van to EHU or an electric hookup. I don't want everyone thinking that I'm always eating chocolate biscuits when I'm in the van. I'm not always eating chocolate biscuits. Maybe I only eat chocolate biscuits when I'm in the van, in which case I'm in the van every day. Okay everyone, just before we get on to electric hookup and some little safety tips that you need to be aware of, just wanted to say an absolutely massive sincere thank you from all of us to all of our lovely subscribers that are already subscribed to this channel. We typically say at the end of most of our videos, please consider subscribing because it helps grow the channel. We are sincerely grateful when you do subscribe, and of course it's completely free to do so. But we also, of course, are sincerely grateful to all our lovely subscribers that are already subscribed. So thank you very much from the bottom of our hearts. We hope you remain subscribed, and we hope you find our future videos entertaining and hopefully informative. Let's press on. So with electric hookup, before we show you the little safety tips, it's worth mentioning that not all cables are created equal. And I have said in previous videos that you can purchase electric hookup cables with only a 1.5mm core of wire inside. And this is just frankly not good enough, everyone. We would certainly not recommend it, and neither would anybody that knows anything about electric hookups. So the cable that we use has a 2.5mm core. Now, we have it on a handy reel, albeit the handy reel does take up a bit of space. But this cable in my hand here has a 2.5mm core. Now a link to the cable that we use is in our Amazon storefront, and the Amazon storefront link is always in the description below of all of our videos. So anyway, we would definitely say that you need to buy a cable with a 2.5mm core. But the next question, and this question absolutely brings lots of different views, opinions and comments to us and everyone in the motorhome forums that I'm part of, is how long should your cable be? I have said this before, and I apologise if you've seen me say or heard me even say this before. We started off with a 10-metre cable and we quickly realised it wasn't enough. I have had some viewers say that they've had 15-metre cables and that's always been enough. We use a handy 25-metre cable. Now of course that does mean it's a little heavier, and you may spend an extra 30 seconds reeling all that 25 metres back in when you're leaving. But really, what would you do with that extra 30 seconds? I can't think of much I would do in 30 seconds. Apart from maybe eating other chocolate biscuits, of course. So we don't want to get caught out by not having a cable long enough. And although there are people out there that are happy to have shorter cables, and some of those people join those shorter cables together when they need a longer cable, it's not something that we're going to recommend on this channel. So we would always go for 25 metres. So let's go and plug this van in to an electric hookup then. Well, the first thing to note is you have on your electric cable a male end, and that goes into the actual campsite power supply. And on the van side, you have the female one. It's got a handy flap on it. Now that flap is there partly for your protection. Why? Well, we'll discuss that in just a moment. So the first thing to do before you actually connect your van up to an electric hookup on campsite is to make sure that the control panel in your motorhome or campervan is turned off. Why do we do this? Because it reduces the chances of tripping any fuses or RCDs in the van, or upsetting any electronics that are in the van. So it's always best to make sure that control panel is off before you connect up to the electric hookup. The next thing we do, of course, is we take the female side with this handy protective cover and we put it into the van. Now there is a specific way to fit it into the van. I have seen people attempting to do this incorrectly, so for the benefit of all, we will show you how to do it correctly now. Basically, you will see that as the plug is going into the socket at the side of the van, the flap that was protecting the front of that socket is now at 90 degrees to that, and that flap actually goes inside the hole, the surrounding hole of where the plug is situated on the side of the van. You make sure that it clicks in securely into the side of the van. And to release the cable, of course, when you're finished on campsite and you've unplugged it from the mains electric on the campsite, there is a little black catch just here. You need to push that down and it releases the cable. Then, of course, everyone, you're going to want to connect up the other end of that cable to that lovely electric at the campsite. And you have, of course, paid for that electric on the campsite, so why wouldn't you? But to do that, you must unwind all of the cable off the cable tidy. Now, I can't stress this enough, everyone. It is an absolute risk. It is a fire hazard if you do not take all the cable off the cable tidy. It should not be left in a wound fashion anywhere. Even if it's not on a cable tidy, it shouldn't be left in a coiled or wound fashion on the ground when you're on campsite. There is a risk of overheating and therefore there is a fire risk. It is an absolute no-no. Please do not do it. Then, of course, we plug the other end of the cable into the campsite, which is very easy, as you can see in the little clip on the video now. And I usually have a cursory glance at the RCD next to it, which is, of course, the trip for that electric in case something goes wrong, just to make sure it's in its working position. Here is a tip, everyone. When I am connecting our van to the campsite, I always put the wire through the hole in the cable tidy. Why do I do this? Because I'm not bothered about putting the cable tidy back in the garage whilst we're on site. But equally, I don't want the cable tidy to maybe blow away if it's windy, or worse still, maybe a child will pick it up and see if they can play with it. So I always put the wire through the hole in the cable tidy before connecting it up to the electric hookup. And then lastly, of course, we can switch on that control panel. And then you should see a symbol that looks like this, which will confirm that that lovely 240 volt supply is coming into your van. So why do we do it in that particular order? Well, we mentioned the flap on the end of the one end of the cable, the end that goes into the van. Well, the reality is the reason why that's a female connection and it's got a flap on it is because some people unfortunately go and connect their cable to the campsite electric hookup first. And the problem with this is you are potentially, at least particularly in the UK, walking across a wet grass with 240 volt cable that's now live. You must always plug the van side in first and plug it into the electric on the campsite second. That way you are not walking across the grass or wherever it is you're walking carrying a cable that's got 240 volts going through it. Yes, I know the circuits are protected by RCD, but it's just good practice. It's the right way to do it, and that's what we're asking you to do by watching this video. So now we're plugged into the EHU. What does the EHU actually do for the van? Well, in our particular roller team van, we have 3 240 volt sockets, and they will not work in this van if we're not connected to the electric hookup. So, of course, that's one of the main reasons why we plug in to the on-site electric when we're on a campsite. Then, of course, we have the fridge. The fridge, our particular fridge at least, is one that you can set to automatic mode, which basically means it's always looking for the next power source, whether it be the van battery, but of course that, as we've said in a previous video, is only when the engine is actually running, whether it's from the gas or whether it's from the 240 volt hookup. So, of course, when we connect to the campsite, our fridge will then be running on the electric that, as we've already said in this video, we have paid for, so why not use it? And lastly, that electric hookup will be helping to recharge the leisure battery, or batteries even, in your van. That is what the electric hookup is there to do. So to end this how-to video, everyone, we'll just give you one more little tip, and that is always to remember that the control panel should be last on and first off. So what we mean by that is when you pull up at the campsite, make sure that the control panel is off before you connect to the electric hookup, and turn it on only when the electric hookup is plugged in and all is fine. And equally, when you are leaving campsite, the control panel should be the first thing you turn off. So again, you're making sure that when you disconnect that 240 volt supply, the control panel isn't still on, because you're reducing the chances of tripping any fuses or tripping any RCDs. It just keeps everyone happy. And then while we're talking, of course, about electric hookup cables, what if you want to plug in your van at home? If you want to do that, you will need an adapter, a bit like this one. These are a few pound on Amazon. They're in our storefront link, which is underneath this video in the description below. We are, of course, in the UK, so this adapter has a 3-pin plug on one end, and it has the female connection to receive the standard electric hookup cable in the other end. It's very useful, particularly if you store your van at home. Unfortunately, we don't store our van at home. But if we travel to friends or family, we get some lovely free electric. Always makes a good talking point when you're trying to get free electric from friends and family. Anyway, and another important point, I guess, particularly if you do keep your van plugged in at home, but this could also occur on a campsite, of course, is making sure that you remember to disconnect before you drive off. Now, that does sound probably really, really simple, but the reality is it could be done. Now, I have been reliably told by one of our lovely viewers that on their roller team van, if they try to start the van whilst it's still plugged into the electric hookup, there's a warning beep. I haven't tested this, everyone, at the time of filming. I don't want to test it insofar as I hope I never forget to remove the cable. But a good practice could be, particularly if you're not plugged in at your home address, is to drape something, maybe like this adapter, over your steering wheel while you're at the campsite. And then, of course, when you get back into the cab, you'll be like, oh yes, have I unplugged the electric cable? Please, of course, make sure you have unplugged from campsite before you drive off. Thank you very much, everyone. We hope you found this little how-to video informative. And again, as always, we're going to say to you, if you did, please consider hitting that like button. And if you are not subscribed to the channel already, please consider subscribing. There are going to be plenty more how-to videos, plenty more travel videos. We are planning many more trips for this year and beyond. Hit that subscribe button. It's completely free, and you'll be able to follow us on our journey with our roller team motorhome. See you soon.